to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming today. My name is Kate Kimball and I'm the Public Information Officer assigned to this critical incident response team investigation. Today you're going to be hearing from Fort Collins Police Chief Jeff Swoboda. His name is spelled J-E-F-F, last name S-W-O-B-O-D-A. And 8th Judicial District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin, that's G-O-R-D-O-N, M-C, capital L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. I am Jeff Swoboda, the Police Chief at Fort Collins Police Services. On April 19th, 2021, Fort Collins Police Services was asked to take the lead in an investigation regarding the arrest of Karen Garner on June 26, 2020. The arrest and subsequent use of force carried out by Loveland police officers was stemming from a call for service about a retail theft. Fort Collins was the lead as a result of the 8th Judicial Critical Incidents Response Team being activated by the District Attorney. CERT is a multi-agency team responsible for conducting criminal investigations involving police employees' use of force. Generally, CERT is activated for officer-involved shootings. However, it can be activated for cases where serious bodily injury occurs, as is the case here today we're talking about. Generally, CERT blends investigators from a variety of agencies. But in this case, due to the other two agencies, Loveland and the Sheriff's Office, having contact with Ms. Gardner that day, the decision was made that Fort Collins Police Services would be the sole investigators. You know, trust is vital in the criminal justice system, and CERT framework is meant to standardize investigations where they place a premium on accountability and transparency. The goals are to conduct an independent, thorough, and fair investigation. I want to thank the District Attorney for allowing space and time to conduct a thorough investigation in the face of a great deal of publicity and community concern. 2 detectives and 1 detective sergeant led this investigation. This was their full-time assignment since April 19th. However, at various times through this investigation, multiple detectives assisted, investigative aides helped out. In fact, our entire unit within the investigations division assisted on this case. They worked tirelessly to identify, locate, and schedule approximately 24 interviews. They enhanced and transcribed hours of video. They reviewed medical and police reports. They reviewed phone records. They established a comprehensive timeline. Ultimately, they produced a nearly 700-page report. This past Monday, May 17th, Fort Collins police detectives gave that report and presented it to the District Attorney's office, to the District Attorney at his office in an approximately 2.5-hour meeting. It is important to note that this work was conducted and then presented in less than 30 days. I'll be turning the microphone over to the District Attorney, who will discuss what has been decided. But before I do, I want to take just a moment to thank the detectives who left no stone unturned in this case. Investigations are generally more difficult anytime there's a delay between the incident and the investigation. However, the professionalism, the skill of these detectives have produced a report that clearly outlines exactly what occurred that day. Mr. District Attorney.
I'm sorry, sir. Come here, Chris. Got too many mics hanging on this one pole here. Got it?
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Gordon McLaughlin, the District Attorney for the 8th Judicial District, which is Larimer and Jackson counties. Ensuring public trust in law enforcement and our criminal justice system is vital to our community safety and our fundamental belief in fairness. Over the last month, the 8th Judicial District critical response team conducted a thorough investigation that will allow us to move forward in the pursuit of justice on this case for Karen Gardner, for her family, and for the Larimer County community. I thank Chief Svoboda and his team for their incredibly hard work over the last month in this investigation. I can tell you that all parties involved took this extremely seriously and are aware that the results reached, whatever those ended up being, were going to be consequential to this community. The CERT protocol is a procedure designed to reach fair, unbiased, and just conclusions which our community can have confidence in. Regardless of the outcome, it was essential that an independent and reliable investigation occurred so that our community can trust the criminal justice system, trust this investigation, and believe that justice is indeed being served. I recognize this case has an unusual history with the timing of disclosure and investigation. I assumed the position of District Attorney in the 8th Judicial District on January 12th of this year, 2021. I first became aware of this incident on April 15th of this year, the evening that the federal civil lawsuit hit the media. The next day, on April 16th, I had the opportunity to view videos in this case and was immediately concerned with what I saw. The following day, on April 17th, I requested of our CERT team and the law enforcement chiefs in this community that we invoke the Critical Incident Response Team protocol to ensure that independent investigation occur. All parties agreed that an independent criminal investigation was necessary and appropriate in this case. Over the last month, I, along with my top team, have monitored this investigation as it progressed, and I'm confident that it was indeed thorough and that it was indeed independent. Through the CERT investigation, I was able to review dozens of witnesses, interviews, scores of records, phone calls, reports, and photographs, hours of audio and video, and a host of additional evidence, which led me to the decisions I'm making here today. My responsibility as District Attorney is not to render moral judgment on any of the actions of any of the people involved in this case, but merely to evaluate, does the conduct that we saw through this investigation rise to the criminal level? The legal standard which we are held is whether we can prove to 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that this criminal conduct occurred. And it is my ethical duty to apply the facts which they exist to the law as it is written. Our considered decision in this case today are that criminal charges should and have been filed against 2 former Loveland police officers, Austin Hopp, Daria Jalali. All charges against them are merely accusations at this point. They are presumed innocent unless and until they are proven guilty. This is now an open criminal case, and I'm therefore bound by ethical obligations of the rules of professional conduct to limit what I share to preserve the neutrality of any jury pool and ensure a fair process in this case. But in short, I will say that while peace officers are permitted to use reasonable force to effect an arrest, the investigation in this case showed that Austin Hopp used excessive force in the arrest of Ms. Gardner, and that resulted in serious bodily injury to Ms. Garner. Further, the investigation showed that Daria Jalali, having witnessed that excessive force, failed to live up to her duties under the law and as a sworn peace officer to either intervene or report in that conduct. Finally, the investigation found that Austin Hopp made substantial omissions and specific statements in his reporting of the interaction in an attempt to thwart the investigation of his conduct. The charges filed, which again are merely allegations until proven beyond a reasonable doubt, are as follows. Against Austin Hopp, assault in the 2nd degree, causing serious bodily injury to an at-risk victim, that is a Class 3 felony. Attempt to influence a public servant, that is a Class 4 felony. And 1st degree official misconduct, a Class 2 misdemeanor. Against Daria Jalali, the charges we have filed are as follows. Failure to perform the duty to report excessive use of force, a Class 1 misdemeanor. Failure to perform the duty to intervene in excessive use of force, a Class 1 misdemeanor. And 1st degree official misconduct, a Class 2 misdemeanor. Warrants for the arrest of Mr. Hopp and Ms. Jalali have been issued by the court at this time. I had the opportunity this morning to meet with the family of Ms. Garner to explain these charging decisions before they were made public and let them know how we would proceed on this case and that we would do our best to seek justice in this matter. I also had the opportunity to notify the Loveland Police Department of these charges. And while this CERT investigation is and can only be a criminal investigation, Loveland has previously announced that they intend to look at their internal processes and procedures and evaluate what led to this incident and what led to the delayed reporting. I know that Loveland intends to have a press conference later this afternoon so that they can answer your questions that pertain to their agency. I believe this decision speaks clearly to our community that accountability will be achieved through our independent critical incident response team process. And I hope today can be a step towards rebuilding trust between the criminal justice community and the Larimer County community, as well as seeking justice for Ms. Garner's family. Thank you, folks, and we will take a few brief questions now.
Do you believe?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe this is the first time that a charge for failing to intervene has been used since the police accountability bill was passed? And would you have been able to charge this officer had that bill not passed?
I do not know if this is the first charge. We have not looked into that. We were solely looking into the conduct that occurred in this incident, not what else was going around the state. Without the new law in SB 217, I certainly think that would have made this significantly more difficult to prosecute. Yes, sir.
Why weren't any of the other officers charged in this case? I think there were 5 that were involved altogether. Was there not enough evidence to charge the other officers involved, sir?
I can tell you we looked at absolutely everyone involved in this case, looked at the evidence surrounding those people, and looked at what the law required to file criminal charges. At this time, we do not believe that the evidence supports criminal charges against the other folks involved. There is certainly conduct that I know folks have questioned in the community, folks have concerns about, but what our obligation is, again, is does that conduct, not is it good or bad, but does it rise to the level of criminal culpability? And so the decisions we made here today are based solely on those 2 officers, and those specific 2 officers or former officers were the ones on scene who either participated in or witnessed that direct use of excessive force as opposed to the other individuals involved. Yes, sir.
A quick question for you. Can you explain to us how you guys came to the influence public servant allegations? Can you give us a little more insight as to what may have happened there?
Yes, I can't get into the facts to preserve the integrity of the open case, but I will say they were based on reporting, in this case that Officer Hopp did, that we do not believe was accurate. Yes, sir.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions about this whole case too, and I don't know if your investigation looked into that, but one of the unanswered questions is why it took so long to find this out, to find out what happened, whether it went up the chain of command, how far up it went to the chain of command, or whether there was a failure in that regard. Did the investigation look into that, and can you say anything about that?
We certainly looked into some of those issues in this investigation. I'm not going to comment specifically on who I believe knew what when. Some of those might be internal procedure issues that would be proper questions for the Loveland Police Department and not necessarily criminal conduct that we're looking at as part of this investigation. Yes, ma'am.
Did anybody in your office see this body cam footage prior to the federal lawsuit being filed?
I took office in January of this year, so I was not leading the district attorney's office last year. My understanding is that a member of the district attorney's office had watched the video as part of their review and eventual dismissal, which certainly I believe was the right decision at that time to dismiss the case, the criminal case against Ms. Garner. I have made it very clear to the members of my office, attorneys and otherwise, that I will not stand for someone looking the other way on evidence such as that. I expect that evidence being brought directly to me and that we review that, and that has been made crystal clear to my employees now. What the expectations were last year were not my decision. Yes, sir.
Is that employee still with your office?
Yes, they are. Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, when was the last time that this district attorney's office filed a charge against a police officer in its town?
Sorry, say the last part of the question?
To your knowledge, when was the last time that the this district attorney's office filed a charge against police officers in the county?
In the county?
Yes.
I know charges against police officers have been filed. In terms specifically of excessive use of force, I do not know the answer to that. Yes, sir.
Chief Svoboda, a question for you real quick. For those in the community who were telling us that they felt this investigation wouldn't be done properly, thoroughly, or fairly because it's been done by a partnering agency, how would you respond to that, especially now that we've gotten to this point where charges have been filed?
Yeah, I would say I'm not surprised with the current climate in law enforcement, that their trust is not at a premium right now. And so people are going to look at it skeptically when police departments investigate other police officers. But I can tell you, after reviewing this case and watching the presentation, our detectives handled this exactly as the way that the community would expect. They were thorough, they were impartial, they let the facts lead them to the end result, and as you heard from the district attorney, this was a well-presented case that pretty much answered every question, in my opinion. So I understand the skepticism, but at the same time, I would ask people to take a look at this investigation as things get released and see that the members of Fort Collins Police Services Detective Bureau did a fantastic job, and they would be proud of the investigation that they conducted.
Is the detective's report going to be public?
We are not releasing further information to, again, protect the integrity of this case and make sure there can be a fair adjudication of this case in the end. So we're not going to be releasing that today.
Some have said that this may be a culture problem there. Does this put Loveland PD under a bigger microscope for your office?
I will say what I said a minute ago, which is that I have high expectations for the folks in my office to make sure that we are holding criminal conduct accountable. And that means criminal conduct wherever it occurs. That's with citizens and that is with law enforcement. And we are ready and willing to do that. And I believe we have done that here where it is appropriate to do. So we will look at that wherever it occurs. In terms of the specific culture of the Loveland Police Department, I would direct that question to them later this afternoon. Yes, sir.
Have the officers either turned themselves in or been arrested, and how much time do you anticipate they will spend behind bars before being allowed to go free?
Warrants have been issued in both of these cases. To my knowledge, they have not turned themselves in at this point, but again, that could have happened while we've been standing in here. So I don't have, immediate information, but to my knowledge, they haven't. I do not know how long they would be held until a bond is set. Certainly, they have a right to have a bond set, and a judge will do that.
Sir, do you anticipate they'll turn themselves in, or do officers go knocking on their doors to arrest them? Do you know that?
We have had indications that they do plan to turn themselves in, but I'm not going to make predictions or pretend to be able to speak for them.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What would be the sentencing if they were to plead guilty on both count and
I don't have those complete sentence ranges in front of me because they each face 3 charges with some different modifiers, but we can certainly follow up with you and get you the sentencing ranges for all 6 of those counts. Yes, sir.
Has your office directly spoken with either officer, and if so, can you tell us what those interactions have been like?
I'm not going to comment on any specific conversations.
Okay, but you've had conversations?
I'm not commenting on whether any have been had. Yes, ma'am.
If officers are found guilty in these charges, how could it affect their future law enforcement careers?
Chief, do you know the post answers to that question?
Well, without giving very specific, the short answer is absolutely. Backgrounds done by any professional law enforcement organization would uncover these allegations in the videotape. So yes, and I believe that the state law also has some procedures in there that must be followed. But we can follow up with that specifically what it says, but the answer is yes, this will have an impact on future employment opportunities.
And Chief, would it also affect their pensions?
That I'm not sure of.
Is that just Colorado or across the United States?
There's been so many recent laws passed by legislatures addressing police accountability, as many of them have been called. And so I'm sure there are a variety of changes based on the many different states and pensions and things, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. They will retain a post-certification, or do they lose that post-certification?
Well, as the district attorney said, these are merely allegations and they are charges. So I think once the final decision is made, once this goes through the process, I think that is the ultimate decider on future employment opportunities.
Question for the district attorney real quick. If the family had not filed this federal lawsuit, is it your belief that these officers may still be out working right now?
I can tell you the first time it ever came to my attention or the attention of the CERT investigation team was with the filing of the lawsuit. I can't speculate beyond that.
Have you sealed the affidavits in this case?
No, ma'am, we have not. If there's no further questions, we thank everyone very much for their time. We'll certainly follow up with you on the ranges, and if anyone else needs anything, I know that Ms. Kimball will be able to follow up with you on that. Thank you very much, folks.